Alright guys, and here we are. The car's finally home. And look how slick that paint looks. It's as flat as glass. Nicely see the reflection of the ceiling where I've wired in a whole bunch of downlights. So it's nice and bright in here. Plenty of light to work on it. And look at that. Look how slick that paint looks. Now I won't lie, this paint job cost me $18,000, which might seem like a lot for a lot of you guys overseas, but labour rates in Australia are very, very high. Most restoration shops will at a minimum charge $100 an hour. So this had about between 3 to 4 weeks worth of work done on it. And if you can imagine $100 per hour, that's $4 grand a week. That's between 12 and 16 grand just in labour for 3 to 4 weeks worth of work. Now, that's not including all my rust repairs. I asked the painter, what would you have charged me if he had to do all the rust repairs that I did on the car? And he reckons there was about $15,000 worth of rust work done to it. So really we're looking at a $30,000 to $35,000 to restore the car to this condition, just the bodywork. And unfortunately, that's just how it is in Australia. We have very high labour rates. It's probably why we don't have a car industry anymore. Holden's gone bust. It was just too expensive to make cars here and compete with the Southeast Asian market. Cars from Japan and Korea, they're a lot cheaper to make. So yeah, look at that shine. You see a reflection of everything in it. It's not even in the sun. And the rest of my time has been spent renovating the garage. Now, as we can see, I have the floor done in epoxy. I had to redo the wood inlaying in my workbench. Made a couple of shelves. Mounted some cabinets to the wall. But the majority of the last couple of months has been working on this toilet cubicle, funnily enough. Welded up all the frame myself. Got all reclaimed recycled hardwood timber, all spotted gum and black butt. Sanded it all down, pinned it all together. I've got inlaid epoxy into the knots of the timber as well. And I have a snapped WRX camshaft for a door handle. And I'm not even done with this yet. As you can see, I've got one whole panel to do. Maybe we can see it, probably not. Over far back that way, I've got a workbench where I'm working on sanding down more panels at the moment. So what's the first thing to do on the car? That'll be getting it on the floor, and it's a suspension. So here we have the rear shocks and struts. This is I'm having a lot of trouble finding shock inserts for, because it's a 2+2. They're longer and they don't make them. So an option is to get two 40Z shocks and put them in with a spacer plate in the shock tube. So that's an option I'm looking at. I've got my lowered springs ready to go. Front and back, they're the equivalent of King Spring 3-inch lows. And I haven't been sitting totally idle. This is all the front end, front K-member, caster rods, and the Front sway bar is all painted and I've got new bushes ready to go. But I think we need to tackle this job first. Everything else is painted except all this. So let's get to work. Alright, so here we can see the shock's definitely been leaking and it's leaked all the shock fluid out. And the easiest way to test the shocks, push down on it and it should pop back up by itself, which this one isn't because it's got no fluid in there. So we know these shocks are cactus. Pretty sure there should be a bump stop in there too. Which is not. Alright guys, so here we have it. New shocks, new springs, and I repainted everything, and new shock boots. So it's like I bought one now. Alright, so what did I put in here? We have KYB XLG shocks, which aren't ideal. It's all I could get at the time. I was able to get them out of Queensland. They're supposed to be used with factory springs, and they specifically say don't use them on a lowered spring. This is a lowered spring, however this is a Lovells 1.5 inch lowering spring, but the spring is still captive in the spring perches, which is nice. Usually if you put lowered springs in there, they just rattle around and they're loose until you put the weight of the car onto the shock, and you lose however much shock travel as it takes up the slack from the missing coils of the spring. But it doesn't look like I'll have that problem, and after reading around, a few of the guys say you put a polyurethane bump stop in over the shock and over the shock rod, and that way you'll bottom out on the bump stop before you blow the shock when that bottoms out. So the polyurethane is a bit harsh and they tend to disintegrate and go hard and brittle and crumble after a few years. So I went down to Stuart Wilkins Motorsport, who's a Datsun guru here in Sydney, and he gave me, you might have seen me put them in, these bump stops, which apparently will compress to 25% of their original size and have a more of a progressive stop when you're reaching that bump stop. So hopefully if I do bottom out the suspension or the shocks, it'll be a gradual and not as harsh. But I guess we'll wait and see how it travels when the car's on the road. And as a worst case scenario, I'll just send the strut housings up to MCA in Queensland and get them to section them, turn them into coilovers and put all their gear into it. I've got their stuff in my Sylvia, and it's really good. But we'll give this a go and yeah, see how this goes. But yeah, I think we'll leave it for here for now, guys. I think we're a bit of a long video regardless. I know there wasn't much work done, but hopefully by the next video I'll have the remaining 3 springs and shocks rebuilt, and I've already got the K-frame and K-member done. It's all painted, ready to go. I've got new bushes ready to go for that. So maybe in the next video we'll throw all that together. Alright guys, thanks.